viewers, it's week 42 or something like that on the Pagan Perspective. It's Tuesday, I'm your host Kara, and this week's topic is nature, how it impacts our path, and what we think about it. Nature is kind of a really broad topic, literally and figuratively, because nature is everywhere, literally everywhere, and also because nature is a lot of our paths entirely. Like, our path is nature. Everything is impacted by nature, you know? It's just like, it's really hard for us to wrap our head around, how does nature impact your path? You really have to think about that, because when your path is nature-based, and literally everything in nature impacts it, you really have to think about, well, what is it? What is it that impacts what we do? So whether you follow a solar calendar or a lunar calendar, that obviously, like the ongoing cycle of the sun or the moon, or just the way the earth moves and the way the seasons change and things like that, impacts our path. I follow a solar calendar, so as the sun takes us through the seasons of the year, celebrations change, what's going on with, the life cycle of the god and goddess. I keep saying because I'm thinking, not because I assume you know everything I'm saying. So as the sun changes throughout its course and the god and goddess go through their life cycles, as the, Wiccan creation story, or whatever you want to call it, says, our celebrations change, and the way we think about what's going on in the universe at that time changes. Spring is a time of rebirth and growing and learning and things like that, and winter is normally, winding down toward the end. It's calmer, it's colder. Some people think of it as going toward death, but other people just think of it as, the end of something and the start of something new the next year. That would be the first main way that nature impacts my path, is the solar calendar and what we actually think about what's going on at any given time. Beyond the solar calendar thing, nature, like I said, is everywhere. It gives us everything, essentially. I mean, even things that are man-made, that technically we did not get from nature, well, men made them. Men are part of nature. Mankind is part of nature. We affect nature as much as nature affects us, or vice versa. Nature affects us as much as we affect it. Like Kyle said, as the weather changes, it gets colder, we put on a coat. Or if it's raining, most people stay indoors, unless you're like a fisherman or something. But the weather impacts what we do. Likewise, we affect nature, because if you go outside and chop down a bunch of trees in a forest and build a house, or something like that, you've dislocated the homes of a bunch of animals. You've probably changed the ecosystem in itself if you've wiped out maybe the only location that a certain plant was growing that another animal likes to live in, or something like that. But I don't think of humans as being outside of nature, because the reason we're here is nature, and we are part of it. We are part of the cycle, the ongoing cycle, and that's, I think, a big part of why my path is the way it is. I revere nature because I recognize that I am a part of it, and I am living in this cycle, the circle of life, if you will. People that don't care about nature or don't like it, or, whatever like that, I think that's because they don't realize that nature is not something foreign to us. Nature is us. I mean, there's a reason that we call human nature human nature. It's in us intrinsically, and it's natural. That's why a lot of things that people do might be weird, like if you go outside and hug a tree. A lot of us do. Like, yeah, you call hippies tree huggers. You're making fun of them, but we do it. We do it. I do it. I mean, there are different reasons that we do it. It's not just like, I love trees, even though for some people it is. But, for me, it's a way of grounding. It's a way of feeling the energy that that tree has, and just its strength. And it's been there for so much longer than we have, and it knows so much more. I mean, there's a reason Grandmother Willow in Pocahontas is such an epic character, let me just say. I think that people who don't like nature, or don't care about it, or ignore it, or things like that, aren't realizing that it's harming us as well. Because they think of nature as being outside. you know, humans belong in houses and nature's out there and it's icky and it's dirty and we don't want to deal with that. But it's like our food comes from nature. I mean, gardens, there's a garden right over there with like a ton of vegetables in it and stuff like that. And my neighbors that have that garden literally like feed themselves all summer with that vegetable garden. Like, they make salads all the time, they share it with us in the community, we get tomatoes from them and peppers and things like that. They grow flowers for the rest of the year that are just beautiful. I mean, that's why I'm pagan, because I can't view it as something outside of ourselves. This is a part of who I am. This is a part of who we are. And that's why it impacts my path, and that's how. Like, that's why it's such a big impact. That's why it's hard for us to say, you know, what about nature impacts our path, because it's all of it. All of nature impacts all of what I do. Whether it's something magical or just mundane in my everyday life and just how I live, everything I do is impacted by nature. I guess if I were going to leave you with a parting thought, it would just be that nature is everything, and everything is nature. It's like people think about God. You know, some people say the way they believe in God is that God is in everything. That's why nature is my religion. My God and goddess are nature, because I believe that nature is everywhere and it is in all things, and we should protect it, and we should do our best to live in unity with it and peace and harmony with it and not hurt it. And we should take it seriously, because it'll be here. Hopefully, it will continue to be here for far longer than we will. Nature is your friend. It's more than that, it's you. So, I think that about covers how I feel about nature. Thank you, pagan fairy goddess, for this question, because what I once thought was such a vague, easy topic has turned into this. So I will see you next week. Thanks for watching, and blessed be.